god, the 7th one. I feel like for every single tip, I'm gonna say this is the best tip. Let me tell you about this tip. What a wonderful. So I haven't mentioned this before on my channel, but I go to university in the UK and I'm obviously not from the UK. So I had to relocate and move from Jordan, I'm from Jordan, to the UK. I study law at the University of Bristol and I'm currently in my 2nd year. I just finished my 2nd year and I'm about to go into my 3rd year, my 3rd and final year. And I'm not gonna lie, my university experience was quick. It passed by so quickly, time flies. It actually was really fun, but it's not for everyone. It was really scary for me at first, especially because I moved at 17 years old and I'd never been away from home before. And I know a lot of people are in my situation. There's a bunch of stuff that I wish I knew for my 1st year to make it more enjoyable and have it pass by more smoothly. There's a bunch of stuff. I mean, since I don't want this video to be too long, I only thought of the first 10 that came to mind, but there's a whole bunch of stuff and I could go on and on. So I might do a part 2 of this, but in this video, I'll be mentioning 10 things that I wish I knew before I moved or maybe throughout my 1st year, just to optimize my happiness and make my 1st year a lot more enjoyable than it was. I'm not gonna lie, my 1st year was very enjoyable, but I did get really sad a lot of the time and I got really homesick as well because, like I said, I'd never been away from home before and that was my 1st time away and it was a completely different continent. So I'm gonna be the good Samaritan that I am and I'm gonna inform the people that are in the same situation that I was of a few tips and tricks, or maybe just things in general that you need to keep in mind before you make the big move. So I'm gonna tell you. So the first thing is actually super important to keep in mind, and I cannot stress this enough. No one knows each other yet. Let me tell you, since I was pretty much just like a foreigner in the UK, I don't know why, but I had this feeling that everyone already knew each other, even though the UK is like so huge. So just the fact that I'm not from there isn't really a big factor in determining whether I will fit in or not. So you won't be left out in the way you think you will. So it's not like everyone from the same high school is moving into the same university. And I don't know why, but I felt that way and it's completely normal to feel that way. I've even heard a few people from the UK tell me that they thought that a lot of people would know each other at university and so they'd feel left out. So it's completely normal. Even the fact that you're not from the country, it won't really affect anything. No one really knows each other and everyone wants to make friends. So you need to keep that in mind. So don't cast yourself out automatically just because you think people will, because most probably people won't. Everyone really wants to get to know everyone because they want their friend group, at least in their 1st year, and they want to get to know as many people as possible, so to ensure minimum loneliness, if you will, because loneliness is such a real thing at university, and I'll be talking more about that later on. Another really important thing is getting at university early. Like I said before, that was my 1st time leaving the house or leaving the country by myself to live alone. And so I was stalling a lot, so I ended up getting in my flat last, and that left me with the smallest freezer, and that was super inconvenient. I was left with the smallest freezer for I think the first 2 terms until 2 people dropped out of my flat, and then I got the other tiny freezer, but everyone else got like a big freezer and I got a tiny one because I showed up late. So make sure to show up early. Try and show up the day you receive your keys because that ensures you get the best cupboard space, you get the best freezer space, fridge space. They already assign your rooms for you in the UK, so that won't be a problem, but yeah, make sure you get there early so you can get your shit together basically in the kitchen because that's the shared space. It seems very minute in the beginning, but it is very, very important. So the third thing that I actually mentioned earlier is that the feeling of being lonely is very normal and it's very real. And one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of people go through this, like even if you don't notice it, a lot of people do feel really lonely at university. And this is because for most of us, it's our 1st time away from home. And so it could be really tough. So I'd say when you do start to make friends, don't be afraid to open up about your feelings. You can call your family if you miss your family. If you don't really want to call your family, make sure to hang out with friends and maybe even choose a friend or 2 to confide in if you're feeling that way. I know I felt really lonely in first year, but I couldn't really tell anyone. I don't know why. Like, I felt like it wasn't something I should talk about because no one really seemed like they were missing home. And I felt like maybe it would make me look a little weak if I did speak about it. But now, the fact that I do have more friends than I did in first year, a lot of us have opened up about how we felt in first year, and to my surprise, even people from the UK felt that way, and that made me feel like a lot more included and a lot more normal per se at university because it's a normal feeling. And what people have in common that have gone through this and have opened up about it later on is that they wish they confided in someone when they could and when they felt that way. We still do go through loneliness from time to time, but it's not comparable to first year because first year was just a new experience for everyone. But it's always best to find a friend or two that you could trust and talk to them about your feelings because 9 times out of 10 they probably are feeling the same way, and even if they don't, it helps getting the stress and worry off your chest, and maybe they could take you out and you guys could have a fun time. You guys could go have a drink, have some lunch, have some coffee. It's just a pastime, and they could distract you for the moment because I feel like the feeling of being homesick really won't be cured. Like, you're always going to be homesick, but you can distract yourself and you can learn to cope with it rather than just completely putting it to the side because that's obviously not possible if you've completely moved away from home. But I know for a fact that when I started to actually form my friend group in second year and I started to go out and everything, I didn't feel as homesick. And that definitely contributed to how much fun I was having at university. So for the fourth thing I wish I knew before I went to university abroad is, I know this is going to sound really cliche, but join societies and join clubs. So for first year, I joined the DJ society for a little bit, but I didn't really like the music that they played because it was all drum and bass. I don't like it. Not many people like it. I just kind of left for that reason. Nothing too major. And I was a cheerleader. I still am a cheerleader. I don't know if I'll be continuing third year, but for my first 2 years I was a cheerleader. I feel like I've made a lot of friends through these societies, more so cheer because I've done it for longer and I was more immersed within the society. I feel like everyone I know who's joined a society has made a lot of friends, and this ties into the third thing that I said. If you're feeling really lonely, you can make friends through your societies because you have no choice but to talk to each other. At the end of the day, you're gonna have to talk to them at some point. So being in the same society is a really good icebreaker because it's not like you have to start the conversation from scratch really, because that's really daunting. But if you're in the same society, it makes it a lot easier to open up and introduce yourself because everyone has to introduce themselves to the society at some point. For cheer, for example, we were all put in stunt groups, and for the most part, none of us knew each other. So we obviously had to develop like this sort of chemistry between everyone in the stunt group in order to really get to know each other and trust one another. So yeah, it's very important to kind of immerse yourself within the university community or college community. And one way to do that is to join societies or clubs. There's so many different clubs at university. At least for my university, I know that there's so many clubs. There's like yoga society, there's like cheese society, like dogs, cats, I don't know. There's music appreciation too. Like, there's so much cool stuff. In the UK, there's something called Freshers Fair, and then there's also Refreshers Fair. So for Freshers Fair, it's at the beginning of each year, and it's like when all the societies have like stalls in, it's usually a park or something, and they tell you about their society, and you can sign up to their little email thing. They'll send you an email. Like I said, there's also Refreshers Fair. So for the societies that you could join late, they let you know some information about their society and also how you can join. So yeah, that's always really interesting. And like I said, it's a really good way to make friends. Let me tell you something about this fifth tip, okay? Freshman 15 is so real. It's so real. Bro, I don't even want to remember how much weight I put on during first year. I was a completely different person, but we're not going to talk about that. But what we will talk about though is cooking. Learn a few recipes at home before you go. Tell your mom, listen, mom, we're going to sit down today. You're going to teach me 3 recipes, 4 recipes. I don't care. Learn how to cook. Learn how to cook because let me tell you, honey, first year I was living off frozen pizza, takeaway, fucking I don't know. Like, I feel like I was forcing myself towards the second term to learn how to cook because I was just sick of it. I was sick of the takeout. I was sick of the frozen pizza. It was just crazy. This is really important because you want to stay healthy. Like, please learn how to cook. Please learn how to cook. Honestly, you're gonna have to sooner or later, so make it sooner because it's easier to learn while you're there in person, while you're with your parents or your mom in person, in order for her to teach you how to cook rather than her teaching you over FaceTime or you looking up a recipe and then fucking it up or something. Please learn. Like, I can't stress this enough because I really regret not learning. Oh my god. I learned the hard way, honey. Please don't do that. Please go learn right now. If you're going abroad this fall, watch the rest of this video, but then leave. Go ask your mom to teach you how to cook. And that's all I'm gonna say. So this sixth thing ties into the fifth thing, if you get what I mean. It's get a gym membership. My sixth tip would definitely be get a gym membership. And let me tell you, I got a gym membership for the first month, canceled it, because my lazy ass didn't want to go to the gym. And I put on so much weight, I was super unhealthy, super out of breath when I was walking up the hill that led to my accommodation. Don't be like me. Go get a gym membership, honey, because you're gonna thank me. Like I said, Freshman 15 is so real, it's gonna hit you with no warning. You're gonna wake up one day and you're like, what? I've just let myself go. Really, don't do that because that was a nightmare. Looking back at it, I'm like, who was that person? Because I love going to the gym. I intermittent fast and everything, but like I try and cut down on the junk food. But you know, it was so not comparable to first year and how I was in first year. Like now I cook for myself, I meal prep with my boyfriend. You know, we go to the gym together and I go to the gym when I'm back home here as well. Even though I don't meal prep because my mom cooks, obviously, but please, girl, if you're gonna take one thing away from this, go to the gym. You can eat as much takeout as you want, but if you're going to the gym and you know, getting that body right, making sure you're taking care of yourself and you like the way you look, it's gonna be fine. It'll all turn out okay. But make sure you have that gym membership there because let me tell you something, when I canceled it, that's when shit went downhill because at one point I was like, yeah, I should probably go back to the gym. I got so lazy. I never actually renewed my membership at all. So don't do that. I had to go to the gym a lot in the summer to make up for the fact that I ate like shit and did not exercise whatsoever in first year. So I went to the gym a lot last summer and, you know, made up for it, but it was a lot of hard work. You might as well just start working out from the beginning. You get what I mean. I know you get what I mean. Like, who doesn't get what I mean? I'm being very clear. Go to the gym. Bruh, the seventh one. I feel like for every single tip, I'm gonna say this is the best tip. Let me tell you about this tip. Seventh tip, don't fucking, look at me, look at me. Don't buy your books straight away. Also, don't buy new books. And I'll tell you why in a second. So, for the books, honey, you don't always need books. And my mistake was that even though I bought the books fairly late compared to everyone else in my class, it was still really early. Don't buy your books until maybe a month into the school year, the university year, because at that point, you'll understand what books you truly need and what books you truly don't need. You don't always need books. Everything's online. We both know everything's online. But if there's a book that, you know, your professors advocate for, really advocate for, and they're like, yeah, this is the book that's gonna, you know, help you understand shit like you've never understood it, you can invest in that book. For the point where I said don't buy new books. So the reason for that is that I know there's new versions of books every single year, especially academic books, but a lot of the time there's not much of a difference between the versions. And usually when there is a difference, your professor will tell you that you need that particular version because something drastic has changed. That's when you can invest in the new book. But it's more likely that nothing has really changed over the past year and you can buy a used book, even the past couple years. And sometimes those used books have really good notes in them, so like you're paying less for better quality, and I don't see why you shouldn't do that. So my eighth tip would be to have a lecture buddy. So for my course at my university, lectures are not mandatory. They don't take attendance. So a lot of the time people will show up for the first couple weeks of lectures and then ditch. And the university makes it really easy to do that because they record lectures and attendance isn't mandatory, like I said. So having a lecture buddy could motivate you and motivate the other person to actually show up to lectures. Watching your lecture and listening to them at the same time helps you retain more information rather than just listening to a recording, because you have more context to the situation. Therefore, you can tie the information to something that has happened during the lecture. So it's better for the both of you in the long run. Just show up to the lecture, you know, it's cool, you'll make friends. So for my 9th tip, it kind of only applies to if you're going to the UK to study. First year doesn't count, right? Go out as much as you can. And let me tell you why. I'm gonna tell you a little story. It's a little sob story, but it's a true story. So for my first year, I barely went out, and that also ties into the fact that I kind of prevented myself from making friends because I was so shy. Even when I got offers to go out, I barely would. And that's because, I don't know, I was just really worrisome as a first year student. I was always thinking about, oh, how do we get home? Who's taking the bus? Who wants to split an Uber? Blah, blah, blah. It was just not fun, so I kind of avoided going out as much as possible. That was one of the worst mistakes I ever made in first year, especially because it doesn't count. And on top of that, I didn't even do well. I would rather not do well, at least have good memories. Yeah, that's besides the point. Try to go out as much as you can. Try and have as much fun as you can, because university isn't just about the grades, it's about the overall experience. Having fun is the most important part. It's not really fun if you're in a whole different country studying for your degree and you're not even trying to entertain yourself in any way, because you could have just done that at home. But just living alone is just a whole new different experience, and I would advocate for going out as much as you can responsibly. So if you have a test the next day, please don't go out. But with that being said, it's really important to make sure that you don't only have a group of friends that you go out with. How do I explain this? So let's say I'm in a group of friends and we go out every Friday. That's pretty much the only setting I see them in, so it would be weird if I called them to hang out on, let's say, a weekday for lunch or for coffee. Make sure you have different groups of friends. So if you have a going out group of friends, go out with them. It's equally as important to make sure you have friends to do other things with. For example, you could have a study group. You could have a group of friends that you have lunch with on Monday, or you could have a group of friends that you go to lectures with, because your going out friends aren't always going to want to hang out with you in a different setting, and that's completely okay, because that's probably the only setting you got to know them in. So it's really important to make sure that you have different groups of friends to hang out with for different occasions. And for my 10th and final tip, and this is one of my favorites, if you're living with a group of people like I did, you probably will if you're staying in a flat, you have to accept the fact that your kitchen will definitely be messy at times, and it won't always be your fault, but you always have to make sure to clean after yourself, and don't be afraid to call out people if they've been messy or if they haven't been doing their chores. So for me, there was like a little poster on the wall with chores. So for example, for that whole week, I would be taking out the trash, or for that whole week, I'd be cleaning the tables, or I'd be vacuuming. A lot of the times my flatmates wouldn't be doing their job. We had this flatmate that would always remind us, and it was really annoying, but I understand now because it's really annoying being in a messy kitchen, especially when it isn't your fault and you'll get the blame for it. My kitchen was really not that messy in first year. Like, I had really clean flatmates. I've heard some horror stories, like my boyfriend's flat had maggots around their food bins. Thank God that wasn't me. I was always doing my chores, and it's really important to stay on top of your chores, because you do end up getting fined if your kitchen gets to a point that it's unbearable and they don't want to clean it. So make sure to stay on top of the cleanliness of your kitchen and the neatness of your kitchen, because they will literally fine you over the stupidest shit. Like, one time, one of us had to take out the trash, and I'm pretty sure it was me, but I'm gonna say someone. I had to take out the trash. The day that the cleaning lady visited was Monday or Tuesday, I think. I think it was Tuesday. And the trash was only half full. Like, it was literally half full. And we got like a note telling us that this can't happen again or else we'll be fined. So make sure to stay on top of it, especially if it's the day before the cleaning lady visits, because they be mad sometimes. You need to make their job as easy as possible for them so that they like you, and so that if one day they catch you slipping, they're not as mean to you, if you get what I mean. So that was the end of my video. I've provided 10 things that I wish I knew before studying abroad, so in my case studying in the UK, but it could for the most part apply to studying anywhere that isn't home. I hope it helps someone because I know it would have helped me had I known these things before I moved. Just make sure to have fun in your first year. That's something that wasn't really a priority to me. Don't do that. I know it can be hard, but you know, try and distract yourself, make as many friends as possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I probably will be making a part 2 because there's so many other tips that I really want to include. How the fuck do you end a video? Like, I just want to wake up one day and know how to end a video because it's actually getting out of hand. Obviously that day is not today. What a wonderful